Yeah, I mean, I can't blame what's going on with O'Neal Cruz on what happened last year. He needs to get out of his own head in some ways. I've seen O'Neal Cruz be over-aggressive. Being under-aggressive and passive is kind of a new thing for him. It's not a good look. He's a very good hitter. We saw in spring he can be a very disciplined and mature hitter. He has not been that so far this season. It is still very much in there. What I see with O'Neal Cruz is probably a common thread throughout a lot of young Pirates hitters, and I think it's why people, clench their fists and want to throw things at the television, and they yell at Andy Haynes. And to a degree, I understand blaming Andy Haynes, but I think what the Pirates are trying to do with the heavy on-base percentage approach and seeing more pitches sometimes messes with guys' heads. And I think we're seeing that with O'Neal. I think they need to find a way to kind of, Apple Z this entire situation, get him to strip it down, rely on his natural athletic ability. Obviously, there's a lot of that there, but there's a lot of wheels turning in O'Neal's head right now. I don't think it's good.
Maybe too much analytics, and this is one thing I did want to ask you. You brought up being aggressive. I think they should be a more aggressive team. You have to change it a little bit here. Maybe find a happy medium, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too much. Andrew McCutchen has a great lens on this stuff. I like talking to Kutch about, kind of scouting reports and whatever. He's not a deep diver with that stuff. And there are some who are. Henry Davis is somebody that will really parse through numbers and care so much about what an opposing pitcher might do. And, Ray Searage, as he famously said a couple years ago, the game within the game. And, you can get lost with that stuff. You can also tune it out and say, you know what, see ball, hit ball. I'm gonna take that approach. I'd rather O'Neal did that. And I think what the Pirates are doing writ large makes a lot of sense, especially for their lineup. It's how they can get on base and create runs, but it's not a perfect approach for everybody. We saw Jack Sawinski last year, far too passive. I think he's taken some strides this year and he's been better, but again, it's just a hiccup that tends to bite some young players on their team.
I totally get it. You want the opposing starter to throw more pitches, right?
Right.
Get him out of the game. Speaking of Henry Davis, and before we go to break, is it a mental thing right now with him? Because obviously he was the best pitcher in best hitter in college baseball, and he was a way better hitter last year than he is this year. Is it a confidence thing? What's in his head right now?
Yeah, confidence thing. I think that's part of it. He's starting to. You see guys tweak their swing, make mechanical adjustments when they're kind of desperate, and that's what Henry's doing right now. And I understand why. He's in a tough roster position. Honestly, he's got options. They can send him to AAA, and they might. Yasmani Grandal is rehabbing with AAA Indianapolis, and he's probably going to be ready before too long. But, what's going on with him, Richie, is pitch recognition, not being synced up to the fastball. Henry Davis, one of the reasons he had success last year was his ability to handle heat. He has not done that so far this year. Sometimes he can get a little long to the ball, which, not to get too nerdy on you, but, just has too many mechanisms going on in his swing. And he's working on that. But with him and a lot of guys, it is just a strip-it-down, simpler approach that is needed. Certainly easier to say from my seat right now than on the field. But that's what I'd like to see. You know what? I like nerdy. But the thing with me, with Henry Davis, I thought he'd be more confident this year, more relaxed, because he's at his natural position. He's not out in right field thinking about how he's going to play a ball, where he's going to throw to, what cutoff guy he's going to hit. I know. Well, trust me, catching in the major leagues is far more complicated than that. He's in and out of meetings and trying to do the best thing for pitchers and catching them and learning. Henry Davis is handling a whole heap. That being said, I'm not making excuses for him. He has to hit. I don't care what else you're handling. He needs to produce with the bat, especially being a #1 overall pick. They need that pick to pan out. They need Henry Davis to hit. He needs to figure it out. All right, we're going to figure it out here in a couple minutes. The phone lines are jam-packed. We're taking your phone calls next. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our GMC Tweet of the Night. You can see this from MLB Network. Players with 2,000-plus hits, 300-plus home runs, 200-plus stolen bases in the wild card era since start of 1994. And you see Andrew McCutchen is part of that elite company. Alex Rodriguez, Beltran, Soriano. Mackie, at some point, I like Andrew, but I think I don't know what kind of role he has with the Pirates right now. Do you keep playing him? Do you keep DHing him? Or do you just try to force Henry Davis or someone else into that role? Well, he's not hitting, Richie, but who else is? No one. Yeah, you're right.
Alika Williams. Maybe
Yeah, DH Alika Williams. That's the answer. No, you keep playing McCutchen. You do.
Okay.
I wouldn't be playing him every single game. I think
Yeah.
they're trying to give him a requisite amount of downtime. I don't think I shouldn't say I don't think he's completely healthy, but, you see him nursing some things around the clubhouse. So rest is paramount with him. But no, I wouldn't be looking to sit. He's still one of the best hitters on the team, and as much as he can be out there, he should.
All right, let's go out to the phone lines. We got out in Plum, my hometown now. We got Martin or Martine. I don't know which one it is, but Martin, you're up.
Yeah, it's Martin.
Okay, what's up?
I didn't get bucko fever this year, and
I still have it.
a lot of people.
Jared, Jason yelled at me. I still have bucko fever though. Go ahead.
I think it's getting cured.
How can you, man? I got vaccinated for that last.
Well, Martin from Plum, thanks for coming on. The Pirates are just frustrating right now. There's no question about that. Just because of the ups and downs, and you got Milwaukee coming in here, winning 7 of their last 10. The Pirates are losing 8 of their last 10. This is after one more against the Red Sox. Chuck out in Uniontown. How you doing, Chuck?
Okay, thanks, fellas. Again, good evening. Well, the sad thing about this is it looked like a carbon copy of last year, and what bothers me is that, coming up in the middle of the season, I take it from May 1st through August 31st, we can't have another repeat of last year where it's something like 40 and 60. And, if this year's supposed to be different, we got to stop this now. And it seems to me, as in hockey, the Penguins need to shoot more, the Pirates need to swing more, because you can't be standing there with a bat on your shoulders
Yeah.
for a minute in scoring position. That's,
That's what we just talked about, being more aggressive. Maybe they should take that approach here. I get analytics, and I get waiting to see more pitches to wear out the starting pitcher. I get it. But, this is supposed to be a good hitting team, Jason.
Yeah, and you know what, Richie? I think it's going to be really interesting to see. They thought that they addressed a lot of this stuff in the offseason in terms of stopping a slide. And we heard that a lot with, Rowdy Tellez, Martin Perez, Marco Gonzalez, who's currently hurt, even Grandal, and some of the leadership they installed in this locker room. Is it enough? I think now is going to be a pretty good test. I understand why people like Chuck, and thank you for the call, Chuck, start talking about 20-8. Here we go again, deja vu. I think we're a little bit early for that sort of stuff, but at the same time, the Pirates are in an ugly slide right now. They need somebody to break it. They need somebody to step up on the field. They need somebody to step up and rally teammates and get these guys out of the – there's not a great feeling around the club right now. So, yeah, I understand the comparable to 20-8 and what happened, but I do think they are equipped or better equipped to get out of it.
Yeah, I thought Mitch Keller would be the guy to stop it, but, things didn't go well in the first inning, and they just kind of unraveled from there, and they didn't get the hits. All right, John, out in Cranberry. How you doing, John?
Hey, Richie, thanks for taking my call. And Jason,
Yep.
It's great to see you on again. So, 8 runs in 5 games. It's been a very tough week, but it's early. It's April 20th. But what I want to talk about is what Richie put on the highlights before. In the first inning, Mitch Keller had an at-bat where he had 3 strikes that were called balls. And if you asked me a few years ago, I was dead set against automated strike zones, but now I'm for it because I've seen over the last few years that the strike zone's kind of been challenged. So my question is for both of you guys, what's your take on the automated strike zone? And especially you, Jason, when you're covering the Pirates, I know the minor leagues have gone to it already, so I want to know the feedback that you're hearing on what's going on. I think they have a challenge system down there with it. So thanks for taking my call.
John, really good question. I was against it too, like you, but now seeing this, and that obviously that box is going to have to move wherever, depending on who's the batter, right? The height of the guy. But I think it needs to happen. I really do, because you saw those pitches were right inside that box. They should have been strikes. And it's just, I understand there's a human element, and I like that, but I think it's time to just maybe go to computerized strike zone.
Richie, I'm right with John. I had the same opinion. I was, a couple of years ago thinking, man, I don't want to take the human element out of the game. You know what? Now I want to take some of the human element out of the game, or I at least want a challenge system. And John asked about seeing this stuff in the minor leagues. I've seen games in Indianapolis, even the All-Star game last year in Seattle. I'll never forget this. They used that, and it brings a stadium alive. It's such a cool concept when somebody exercises their challenge and you're like waiting and looking at the board and then somebody's cheering. It's actually a very cool element of baseball, something that we don't see. And you know what? I don't even blame the umpires. I think guys are throwing so hard right now with so much spin, and that's a whole different discussion about pitching, that you're asking them to do something that is outside of the human capability. We have shifted all the way to the point where we need computers to get this stuff right, and I don't understand why it hasn't happened. It should happen in 2025, and I don't think we're far away, but it's just silliness to me that we're seeing stuff like we did with Keller today.
And also, catchers are so much better at framing pitches too, moving that into the strike zone, that it might throw a umpire off a little bit, because you're talking about a split second. Guys are throwing 100 miles an hour. But yeah, I'd like to see it. Here's my only complaint about the challenge system. I don't want games to be long again, because I remember.
They do that in a remarkably quick way, Richie. It's like tennis, soccer, something like that. You go right to the computer. I mean, it should be, we're talking 10, 15 seconds in some cases.
Then I'm all for it. All right, Matt Butler. What's up, Matt?
Hey, guys, you mentioned the hitting and the lack thereof, and one guy you didn't mention is Jack Sawinski. They don't have a number 4 hitter, but it's not Jack Sawinski. I don't even think he's a Major League Baseball hitter now.
Yeah, I mean, he's batting 170 right now.
He had 28 home runs last year. How's he not a Major League hitter?
Yeah,
I'm not saying she should hit cleanup or he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but I mean, I think that's a little harsh.
I mean, look, I mean, I think he deserves a spot on the Pirates, but I don't know if he might be a role player. He might be a platoon kind of guy, but they have him in the starting lineup, and today they had him batting cleanup. But you got to move a guy around if he's batting 170. You got to do something. The guy strikes out, swings at bad pitches, but he does hit home runs too. So
I mean, we're trying to make an assertion over 10% of the season here, and you can look at some of his contact rates and the strikeout rate being down and walks being up. I'm not explaining it all away, believe me. I think Jack needs to produce more than he has, but I think we're forming opinions on stuff, and if you lift under the hood, like there are baseball analytics and numbers that say he's basically been an unlucky hitter. He has hit the ball hard. It's just gone right at people, and we're judging that in a short sample size. Yes, they need a better cleanup hitter. They need better hitters 1 through 9 right now. They're just not producing offensively, but I don't think that should lead to a bunch of rash things with about 10% of the season played.
Well, because there's really nothing you can do. They can't go and say, hey, I got another center fielder in AAA. We're going to bring him back up. I mean,
right.
They're kind of tapped out right now. Until next year, really. I always thought 2025 was the year for this team, right? To really make a run.
Richie, you're punting already?
No,
Come on, we're 20 games in.
I'm not punting already, but I thought this year would be another step in the right direction where they were competitive and they would have a chance at a wild card late.
It still can be. It's April.
Yeah, they still can be. I get what you're saying. I'm not giving up. I still have Bucko fever. It's just frustrating. I mean, I think sometimes things are contagious too. They need something to just kind of break them out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying things are great, they're going to be great or whatever. I'm just saying it's April. We don't know. We don't know.
I just think, I'm one of these Pirates fans like everyone else. You look at last year, you look at the years before, and you're just like, oh no, here it's going, it's happening again.
I know. I deal with it every day, man. I feel like a shrink sometimes. I felt like a shrink sometimes on the beat. Like people are, you just have to like talk them down and speak to them rationally. And they're like, but it's the Pirates.
Yeah.
And I understand. Everybody's expecting the absolute worst thing to happen, but it doesn't always occur.
All right. Well, we could talk about a few other things. We got to take a break here right now. Back in a couple minutes.